Thank you very much, Graham. And good afternoon and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, friends and family. A year ago, in this very spot, I was inaugurated as President of our Institute. I was encouraged to stand as Vice President by both Janet Askew, Jim Claydon and Janet O'Neill. And despite my initial reluctance, I took the plunge in 2016 and the rest is history. So firstly, I'd like to thank them for the faith they showed in me and for those members of the board, the General Assembly and the wider RTPI membership who've supported me since. I took wise advice from previous presidents before stepping up to the role, and I can tell you it's been every bit as challenging, rewarding and as exciting as they promised. Indeed, it's been an honour and a privilege for me as someone who's worked up through the profession and for 25 years as a regional volunteer to serve as your president. As they say, it's been a real emotional roller coaster. But I want to start by saying a few well-deserved thank yous. Firstly to my partner Jenny, who's coped with all the long absences, the early starts, shared all the pressures of the next visit, speech or deadline. Being president can be a very transient and sometimes traumatic lifestyle, but I've loved it, and I've learned a lot about planning, the RTPI and myself. Secondly, I'd like to thank the presidential team, our Vice President, Ian Tant, past President, Stephen Wilkinson, and we've all worked together during 2018 to represent the Institute throughout the country and beyond. It's a system which works well, we keep each other informed, and we ensure that every opportunity is taken to promote the Institute and the profession as best we can. And I'd like to just welcome Sue Manns, our incoming president, who will be president in 2020. Believe me, she is a planner with 2020 vision. She will make the first-class president next year. So here is the new presidential team. And thirdly, I'd like to thank all the RTPI staff who serve the members with diligence and dedication. A special mention to the policy team headed by Rick Blythe and his very capable young planners, and to Richard Patrick and the communications team led by Rebecca, who always succeed in getting that important message across. But my biggest thanks go to our chief executives, in the plural, because I had the pleasure and privilege of serving with two chief executives, both of them extremely hard-working, capable and talented, each with quite different styles. Trudy was like a rock, immensely well-respected, extremely hard-working, fiercely supportive of her staff, and very helpful to me too when I first took on the Vice President's role. She transformed the Institute 8 years ago and brought it kicking and screaming into the 21st century. So let's have an applause for Trudy. And then there's Victoria. Since taking up the role in April, Victoria's been immensely impressive and energetic, dealing with the tough challenges and showing commendable leadership qualities and a real passion for planning. If you follow Twitter, she was absolutely everywhere, bold and fearless, placing herself, and sometimes me too, in front of ministers, always asking for a picture which within minutes is circulating the airwaves. And here we are at the Christmas reception at James Brokenshire. Victoria is taking the Institute to a new level, and we're very lucky to have her. So if we could just applaud Victoria. Now, when I became president, I promised to try and raise the profile of planning, both to our profession and to a wider audience, and to improve the image of the planning to the press and public. I wanted to pick up on the outcome of our 2017 membership survey, where 87% of planners felt we should be more upbeat and campaigning. A powerful message in itself, and this is exactly what we've been doing, the presidential team, Victoria and the staff. Of course, our communications team will tell you that we've always done this, and of course we have. But we had a particular boost in March when the government decided to launch the draft revision to NPPF with the RTPI at an event in London. The then Young Planner of the Year, Luke Coffey from Birmingham, had the honour of introducing Theresa May to the audience. Not, he said, what he normally does on a Monday morning. And she went on to extol the virtues of positive planning. That was, of course, before she went in for Strictly Come Dancing. Despite the ongoing saga of Brexit, which has occupied much of the government's time and effort over the last year, planning, and especially housing, has hardly ever been out of the spotlight during 2018. In addition to the review of planning policy, there's been an ongoing emphasis on housing, with a whole range of initiatives to try and hit what is an extremely ambitious target of building 300,000 homes per year. But I think we all feel that despite some progress, there is still an undue focus on numbers and not enough on meeting people's real needs. We still struggle to deliver affordable housing, and most young people find it more difficult than ever to find, still less buy, a home. We've created a real generational divide in this country. So, before we all get too depressed, let me look at some of the positive aspects of the last year. 25,000 members. What an incredible start. The day after last year's inauguration, we hit 25,000 members, a major milestone for the Institute. And I can claim full credit for this, of course. So, on the 18th of January, fresh from my gathering the night before at County Hall, where I started out on my planning career, I went to Botolph Lane to film a video webcast and an interview for the press. Holly Hobbs, the 25,000th member from Powys in Mid Wales, received a bouquet of flowers, and in March I awarded her a certificate at the Welsh Planning Conference in Llandudno. Holly also joined me alongside Luke Coffey, Bev Watson, who's the longest serving member of staff, and Viral Desai, representing the Commonwealth Institute of Planners, to attend Buckingham Palace Garden Party in May. The gathering was to acknowledge all the charities, including the RTPI, for which Prince Charles is patron during his 70th year. So, let's look at some of those major awards. Celebrating excellence and promoting best practice is, of course, one of the key roles of the President. On the very first evening of my presidency, I was invited to the neoclassical banqueting house in Whitehall, designed by Inigo Jones, where Charles I lost his head, to celebrate the London First Awards, and the overall winner was King's Cross Station, which is a very popular choice. And then in May, we staged our glittering RTPI Awards for Planning Achievement. Lots of entries to a very high standard, and the overall winner was the Silver Jubilee Cup, as our highest award went to Orkney Islands Council for their 10-year regeneration plan for the fishing port of Stromness. It seemed to encapsulate everything about good planning: a clear strategy, good officer-member relationships, working with the community, and above all, dedication and determination by a small team of really hard-working planning staff. The sole representative at the Orkney Awards from Orkney was Roddy Mackay, and he was clearly in a state of shock afterwards. He hadn't even expected to win his category, never mind the overall award. Victoria and I were delighted to go up to Orkney in August and join the planning team in celebrating their award and learning more about the ambitions and achievements of their small island communities. It was the first time the serving president or chief executive had actually been to Orkney. Whilst we were there, we were taken to Skara Brae, a Neolithic coastal settlement dating from about 300,000 BC, 500 years before Stonehenge, which I reckon is probably Britain's first new village. 5,000 years before Ebenezer Howard. So arguably, Orkney is the real birthplace of town planning. And Victoria immediately coined the hashtag total planning. Then, returning home from Scotland, I met Heather Claridge from Glasgow City Council, who is this year's Young Planner of the Year. A talented young planner who already has made a real impact. She took me to see this very impressive canal restoration project she's involved with. And canals are one of my passions too. Now, during 2018, I saw it as my objective to visit as many of the RTPI award category winners as I could, to give full credit and publicity to the efforts and initiative of planners throughout the country. So in August, whilst I was on holiday, I visited the Natural Environment Award category winner, the Kaya Munith Moa project, which seeks to protect the marsh fritillary butterfly in an area of special protection near Carmarthen. And here we are, looking for larvae, and I must emphasise that no butterflies were damaged or even spotted during this visit. Later in August, Victoria and I went down to Devon and Cornwall to celebrate various category award winners together. The winners of the Small Consultancy of the Year, Situate, are based in St Austell, a small firm run almost entirely by women, apart from one lonely and seemingly very happy young man. They've built up a very strong local reputation. While we were there, we were taken to the emerging eco-village being built by Innes on derelict China clay workings. The company is also redeveloping the port of Par, which previously exported China clay. And incidentally, Par is one of only 10 railway stations with only 3 letters. Something for you to think about when you're going back on the train. On our return, we visited Nelson's Quay in Plymouth, the winner of the Large Housing Scheme Category Award, a self-build scheme occupied by servicemen who've fallen on hard times. This is just one element of Plymouth City Council's innovative housing delivery strategy, which won our Silver Jubilee Award 3 years ago. And then we also met up with the runners-up in the Local Authority of the Year category, Tynebridge Borough, a council with a positive, hard-working, friendly planning team who've really achieved good results. 3 weeks later, on my Yorkshire visit, I met the winners of the Local Authority of the Year. Now, Rotherham has gone through all sorts of problems, as we know, which have damaged its reputation, and the council has worked hard to regain confidence. So it's good to see planners given full credit for their success in helping to turn the authority around. Their development management system is like a well-oiled machine. James would know all about it. As being a member, ex-officer of Solihull, also with a well-oiled machine. The new CEO told me as I left that external commissioners would soon be leaving Rotherham, giving control back to the council. And sure enough, a formal announcement was made later that day. And then in November, I joined the Irish Culture Minister at the very impressive RTPI dinner in Dublin to announce the winner of the Best Place in Ireland, a competition we'd previously run for England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. So where was the winner? Not Dublin, Cork or the dramatic southwest coast. It was Loch Bora Country Park, a remote spot in the middle of Ireland where a new activity centre and tourist attraction has emerged out of an old industrial peat bog. Developed over 10 years, it has an impressive visitor centre and a wide range of sculptures from a variety of artists depicting the legacy of the site. We were welcomed by a huge number of people and a radio and camera crew all keen to celebrate the award. Now, talking about individual awards, presenting awards to proud planners, as I was able to do this afternoon, is one of the most pleasant parts of the role of being president. As vice president, I presented to Terry Farrell with an RTPI gold medal in Newcastle, one of only 15 ever awarded. And in March, I had the honour of chairing the Sir Terry Farrell Lecture at UCL in London. when he shared his experiences of a lifelong career with the audience. A man who's achieved so much in planning and design. Then in November, during my visit to the East Midlands, Sir Peter Salisbury, Leicester City's Mayor and former MP, was awarded an honorary RTPI membership for all the work he's done to regenerate the city. And earlier in the afternoon, Leicester Cathedral was packed with planners to honour John Dean, an eminent past president, at his memorial service. Martin Bradbury, another past president and close friend of John Dean, gave a moving tribute at the service. And he also shared the platform with Sir Peter Salisbury at the evening lecture on reflections of 70 years of planning, which in fact John Dean was due to have delivered himself. And finally, during the year, there have been well-deserved fellowship awards for Sue Bridge, Diana Fitzsimmons, Craig McLaren, Wei Yang, Colin Haylock, Lindsay Richards, Kieran Hines, Gary Holman, Sue Manns and John Manns. So, congratulations to them all, especially those who are actually here. Now let's turn to the international scene. The RTPI has an impressive reputation throughout the world, and I had the good fortune to speak on behalf of the Institute at the World Urban Forum in Kuala Lumpur in February, which was exploring how to implement the Sustainable Development Goals and the New Urban Agenda agreed at Quito Conference in Ecuador some 3 years ago. And may I just welcome Issam Zainal Mokhtar, President of the Malayan Institute of Planners, who's here this afternoon and sitting in the front row. The World Town Planning Day, which we were talking about earlier, I was also joined Rasheen Wilmot, RTPI Director, to speak at the conference in Singapore, fully funded by the university, and I worked with the Singapore Institute of Planners on ethics. And in April, I was able to speak at the American Planning Association conference in New Orleans, attended by about 6,500 people. Not all in the same conference room, I hasten to add. So moving on, probably the most enjoyable aspect of the role, especially in view of my background as a volunteer in the West Midlands, has been the visits to the various regions and nations around the country. Before the year started, I wrote to each of the regional chairs and national directors, suggesting that we focus on achieving some challenges, both celebrating good practice, but also learning from mistakes and looking at problems and solutions. And I said I wanted to meet groups of private consultants and public sector planners who so often say, what does the RTPI ever do for me? These meetings were really valuable in pooling ideas and giving planners a more positive perspective about the Institute. And I made the point of meeting young planners and students wherever I went. They're the lifeblood of our profession, and they're bursting with ideas and enthusiasm. So in November, I had the privilege of opening the Young Planners Conference in Nottingham and stayed for the 2-day event, including the glitzy gala dinner and the study tours. The Young Planners team organised a fantastic conference, so congratulations to Chris Jessen and his team. There's a really important role for the Institute in bringing on the next generation of planners. Under the RTPI Ambassador Scheme, volunteers go into schools and promote planning. I hadn't done this before myself, although I had lectured at 2 universities in Birmingham. But I wrote to the principal in my old sixth form college, Barton Peveril in Hampshire, not having been back there for over 40 years. And I asked to speak to youngsters about potential careers in planning. The visit turned out to be really rewarding, both for the 100 or so geography students who attended, but also for me. And I was so impressed with the transformation in the college, their core values and the positive attitudes of students and staff. Changing the subject, fingers crossed, I gather the Institute is also now close to reaching a solution on our apprenticeship scheme. So I look forward to future positive news on this. So now, just a brief canter around the regions and nations in chronological order. First of all, in Wales. I was taken to see an innovative local authority-led partnership housing scheme at Flint, which later won the overall Welsh RTPI award in Cardiff. The following day I spoke to the Welsh Housing Conference in Llandudno, and in Anglesey, where Welsh is people's first language, I met the council who are dealing with major projects, well outside the comfort zone for most planners. And it included a trip to Wilfer, Hitachi's proposed nuclear power plant to replace the old Magnox power station, which you'll have heard recently has now been suspended, so things don't always go to plan. Here we are in the West Midlands, exploring Worcester with Maria Dunn, Chair of West Midlands RTPI, next to a statue of Elgar, my favourite classical composer. The following day we met the Vice-Chancellor of Birmingham University and his academic team at Birmingham City University to talk about pathways for students into planning. In fact, I visited several other universities during the year, Sheffield, Newcastle and Dublin, in each case talking to students about their dreams and their perceptions of their planning courses. In the southeast, it was all about high-tech business growth and the growth of the economy along the Oxford-Cambridge corridor, especially at Milton Keynes and Oxfordshire. We saw the largest self-built housing site in the country at Bicester, 1,500 homes. And that evening the region had their very first annual dinner at Lady Margaret Hall in Oxford, which was really successful. So congratulations to them. And I went back later on to the Oxford Law Conference and had a visit round Oxford by a guided tour of the Suffragette Trail, which again was really interesting. In the northwest, I met the CEO and leader of Rossendale in the friendly town of Rawtenstall, which had won 2 RTPI prizes, one of them for a McDonald's drive-through. I must say, I was somewhat sceptical beforehand, but planners had insisted on a really high level of design on a critical gateway site to their town, and it looks good. Well, I don't have a picture of it here. I do have a picture of the Temperance shop, which I believe is the only one in Britain, in Rawtenstall. So it can be done. Later that day, we learned that Manchester City Council's award-winning design guide had a guided tour of the city. And at Liverpool on the following day, we explored the largest regeneration site in Europe at Liverpool Waterfront by Peel Holdings and discovered different community approaches to tackling housing needs in Toxteth, including an award-winning build-for-rent scheme called Welsh Streets. At one point, we were confronted by a flasher, which was a bit bizarre. On the hottest day of the year, sorry, there seems to be one missing from here. On the hottest, it must have been censored, I think. On the hottest day of the year, I learnt about joint strategic planning between Tewkesbury, Cheltenham and Gloucester. Cross-boundary working was something which cropped up again in South Yorkshire, Nottingham, Devon and elsewhere. And in some places seems to be working really well. The following day in Bristol, I was briefed by Turley on changes going on in the city and went for a very hot walkabout. And later was taken on a boat on the Avon at Bath to appreciate the Avon Waterway project. Their regional award winner, a superb lesson in community involvement. Now, one always receives a very warm welcome in Northern Ireland, and this was true wherever I went in the province. But I have to confess, I struggled to eat scones, jam and cream at 9:30 a.m, having only just had cooked breakfast. But above all though, I was really impressed with the work being done in Belfast to bring the Protestant and Catholic communities closer together through the Greenway projects. networks of paths and open spaces creating healthy routes for walking, cycling and leisure. The sensitivity of the Irish border, I suspect, will be a major issue in 2019. In London, serving the needs of different communities was the major theme, delivering housing at all price levels. And we saw the Collective, a rented community within an old office block in Old Oak, and the conversion of the BBC television centre at Wood Lane. They'd organised 2 discussion forums for me, an evening career session with a panel of 4 women relating how they got into planning, and a debate about diversity at Southbank, where I studied years ago, to talk about catering for the needs of the communities we serve, which was really thought-provoking. And I also went to the Planning Out parliamentary reception in the autumn. In the northeast of England, I experienced an amazing contrast from the down-to-earth problems of securing and retaining jobs in Sunderland and the acute housing issues in Gateshead to the wonderful openness of Hadrian's Wall and the Northumberland National Park, where they're striving to keep remote communities intact. And then finally, you'll be glad to know, in the east of England, we visited the new settlements, both young and old, the impressive Bewley Park being developed by Countryside Properties on the edge of Chelmsford, and Harlow Newtown, designed by the late Sir Frederick Gibbard, an RTPI gold medal holder himself. It was the second new town developed and designated in 1946, and it's now growing to meet modern day needs. And once again, sculptures are very much the theme. So I've always seen volunteers in the regions and the nations as the bedrock of the Institute. And I think most planners look to the regions for their training and networking to supplement the valuable services provided from Botolph Lane. Those volunteers spend their own time and effort, usually after a busy working day, to serve on committees, running the regions, or helping to deliver CPD to their members. And I think it's important to remember the input of those volunteers, especially young planners, in giving their time to the profession. So, I'm pleased to announce that my special presidential award for 2018 will be going to the volunteers in the regions and the nations for their work in the profession. So, and after my closing comments, I'll be making an award to one of those many volunteers on behalf of the volunteers nationwide. So, a few lessons from the past year. In my inauguration speech last year, I talked about the importance of lifelong learning. So what have I learned over the last year? On the future of the Institute, one thing is for sure. We have a vibrant Institute, we have an active and diverse membership, we have an Institute that's well run, well managed and well supported. And we have a strong regional and national role. We also have an enthusiastic and young cohort of planners coming through. This year we'll be reviewing our corporate strategy. In fact, it's already started. So that will be the chance to shape our Institute's future. And we are resilient, which was the theme of our annual conference. Secondly, the future of planning. I believe that planning is alive and well. We have been directly involved in influencing changes in the planning system and policy, and above all in promoting good practice during the year. There is a case for seeking more fundamental changes in planning powers, but we don't have the luxury of starting from scratch. But there are changes needed, and we do need to address the unintended consequences of policy, for example, the impact of permitted development powers. The RTPI will be at the forefront of influencing planning over the coming year. 2019 also marks the 50th anniversary of the Skeffington Report, which in 1969 heralded more public involvement in planning. We, by our very nature, are involved in the business of change, so we're always going to find ourselves at the sharp end of public opinion. Sometimes people don't like change, and there's rarely all-round consensus on anything. But if we are to respond to society's needs and achieve change for the better, we must confront issues head-on. Our job is to present evidence, distill the facts, consult the public, sometimes several times, present the options and recommend preferred solutions to politicians who then make the decisions. I sense that this fair and logical process is under threat from the populist trend of acting on impulse. Intuitively, planners work together. We strive for consensus rather than conflict, and we build bridges rather than building walls. So, finally then, I just want to say a few words about the future of our country. A fortnight ago, I went on a short break to Iceland, which sits right on the edge of two tectonic plates between Eurasia and North America. There is a geological rift across the country which is slowly pulling itself apart, resulting in instability, volatility, and volcanic activity. Strangely, it's also where they held their parliament years ago, until it moved to Reykjavik. And it struck me, here is a classic metaphor of the unstable political situation in this country. There cannot be anyone in this audience who is not deeply concerned about the current constitutional crisis. Now, I must emphasise this is not a political comment. I have no political affiliations whatsoever. But whatever one's views on Brexit, the EU debate has torn this country apart and torn our parliamentary system apart. And yet it is so important in shaping our future. We must take care of the health and wealth of our nation. We cannot get on with it, as so many people say, until we know what it is. The RTPI has signed up to a joint letter lobbying the government against a no-deal Brexit, which would be chaotic, and I welcome that. This is my personal view, and this was written a fortnight ago before George Osborne spoke this morning, but perhaps the politician needs to take a leaf out of the planner's book, take a step back, take time to reflect, explore the options carefully, test the evidence, consider the impact of each, consult on the proposals, and achieve a clear consensus before preparing a strategy which points to a more logical way ahead, whatever that is. It is too important to get it wrong. As we know, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So, after 2.5 years, to use the local plan analogy, we have only just reached the issues and options stage. And I'm afraid I can't see us reaching the final solution in just 2 months, and it would be folly to attempt to do so. But one thing's clear, whatever happens, planners will need to be closely involved in any outcome. We still need homes, jobs, services and infrastructure. The less prosperous regions and nations will still need support if EU funding is lost. We'll still need to help rebalance the economy to tackle severe inequalities in our society. And we will still need to promote growth, uphold standards and protect our precious environment. We as planners will work together to build relationships and to plan ahead for the future. And as I said last year, planning has the capacity to shape places and to change lives. It's been a pleasure and an honour to serve the Institute over the last year, and I wish Ian every success in the future. He will be a superb president. Thank you.